Over the past 4 months, our journey has been nothing short of extraordinary. We embarked on a 26-day passage across the vast Pacific Ocean to reach the stunning French Polynesia, where our first stop was the rugged yet breathtaking Marquesas. The warmth and hospitality of the Marquesans left an unforgettable mark on us, providing some of the most enriching cultural experiences of our lives. After a month there, we ventured on to the serene atolls of the Tuamotus, where crystal clear waters were our playground. We then sailed on to the vibrant Society Islands and have been captivated by the juxtaposition of lush green landscapes and fringing reefs with marine life galore. And now, as we bid farewell to our third month in French Polynesia, we find ourselves at a destination that needs no introduction, Bora Bora.
Good morning. I'm just programming in our route today because we are doing one last sail here in French Polynesia before we check out. And today we're headed to Bora Bora.
What?
Sounds kind of exotic and wild, huh? Never thought I'd sail to Bora Bora. So we've got about 25 miles to go today. It's already 9 a.m., so we better get going. We actually grabbed a mooring here because if you visit the Pearl Farm, they have moorings right outside and they allow you to take one for the night for free if you visit the farm. So,
Did we visit the farm?
yeah, we went yesterday.
And what did we get?
Brooke got a pearl necklace. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. I'll have to show you guys. This small, family-run pearl farm in Raiatea exports black Tahitian pearls, but they also offer free tours to guests. We were able to get a quick rundown on pearl cultivation, learning about the harvesting and grading processes. Black Tahitian pearls are known for their unique, naturally dark colorations. Before leaving, I picked out a pearl for myself, and the woman put it on a necklace for me.
I'm going to slip these lines and then we'll be on our way.
We're off. We left the sheltered waters from the protection of the fringing coral reef and motored out of the pass into the ocean swell. With Bora Bora on the horizon, we pointed one life downwind, unfurled our sail, and soaked in the stunning sight ahead. As we cruised along, we became lost in our own thoughts. It was a surreal feeling knowing that our little floating home had carried us all the way here, far, far away from where our journey first started. Gary jumped right in to tie a second line on our mooring, and as always, checked to make sure the mooring was in good condition before heading off on a little snorkel around the boat. We just arrived in Bora Bora. We had a great sail. There was lots of traffic headed between Raiatea and here in Bora Bora, so it was cool to see all the boats going by. And we just grabbed our mooring for the night. Here in Bora Bora, you're only able to anchor in designated areas and only for 36 hours at a time. So they have a bunch of mooring fields all over, and it's $40 a night. So we grabbed one of those. We're not sure how long we'll stay here, but we made it to Bora Bora, you guys. I can't believe we're here. I can't believe we sailed one live here. Yeah, it's crazy. So we're gonna just chill out probably the rest of the day, and tomorrow we're gonna go on a full adventure. We hopped in the dinghy and cruised past the iconic overwater huts. We laughed about our prime mooring spot and were pretty pleased with ourselves knowing we only spent $40 a night compared to the thousands per night for those huts. It was quite early, but we were eager to squeeze in a scuba dive before the loads of dive boats arrived. Each time we hit the water, we have no idea what we'll see. There is always an element of surprise, which is one of the reasons we love diving so much. We made our way down the coral wall to about 90 feet, scanning our surroundings and keeping a watchful eye for something new. Suddenly, Gary spotted something peculiar, a piece of coral move. But it wasn't coral at all. It wasn't octopus. No, it was two octopi. They were a bit shy, so we gave them some space and watched in complete awe as a rare scene unfolded right before our eyes. Moments like these are what make diving so special. It's not just about seeing the colorful fish and the beautiful reef, but witnessing breathtaking encounters like these. We didn't want to take our eyes off them, but our air was slowly depleting, so we hesitantly turned away and made our way back to the mooring. We're grateful beyond words to be out here, experiencing these amazing moments, and we can't help but feel a deep sense of connection to the underwater world. It's such a wild place, and we feel so privileged to be a part of it. We just got back from an amazing dive. I can't wait to show you guys the footage. I love it when we have a good dive. Whew, it's such a high being underneath there.
So we just did our first dive here in Bora Bora, and we spotted 2 octopi that were together, and that's extremely rare because they're normally solitary. And they were super cool. They were about the same size and looked like a male and a female, a partner.
They were holding hands?
And that's where the interesting part is.
Oh.
So one of them reached over to the other, and it looked like to touch the other one and say it was okay. It turns out that male octopi have one specially modified arm, and on the end of that arm is how they do the business.
So that's what we saw? We saw them mating?
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible. Our minds were buzzing with anticipation for another scuba dive, but it was time to switch gears and finally set foot on the island we'd been eyeing since we left Raiatea.
So today we're at the gendarmerie, which I'm sure I've pronounced wrong, but that is the French word for police station, basically. And we're here because we need to check out of French Polynesia. Our visas expire in about 3 days, and we have to come do paperwork 3 days in advance because the paperwork needs to go to Tahiti and then come back here before we can actually get clearance to leave. So we're going to fill out the paperwork today, and then we'll need to come back in about 3 days to do our checkout, because that is our last day we are allowed to be legally here in French Polynesia. It's been a pretty amazing 3 months here, and we've got some epic sailing and other places to visit in front of us. So we're bummed about leaving, but we're also stoked about leaving. It's always a dichotomy.
Our Bora Bora experience veered from the typical tourist route. Instead of lounging on well-manicured beaches and sipping on tropical cocktails, we walked around the main town and soaked up the local vibes. Bora Bora only has a population of about 10,000 people, but the tiny island greets over 200,000 tourists annually. Beyond the resorts and guided tours, there's not much else to do, so we headed back to the boat to get ready for our next day of diving.
Up here on the deck, getting our dive gear ready for another dive tomorrow. We went out today and did an awesome dive on the outside of the reef. There was a mooring there, which made it really easy. But I thought I'd talk a little bit about how we do scuba dives on our own in remote places without the help of a dive shop. And more times than not, it's just Brooke and I that have to set up everything and plan everything for the dive. So it starts with being able to fill our own tanks, which we have this Coltree dive compressor. It's an MCH6. We bought it used when we were back in Florida before we went to go sailing. It's about 15 years old now, but it still works great, and it's my baby. I take as good of care of it as I can. This will fill each one of our tanks in about 20 minutes each, so that's plenty fast enough to support the two of us doing as many dives as we want every day. It runs off of gasoline, off of this Honda engine, and it's pretty straightforward. You have to change the oil and the breathing air filter in it on a regular schedule, but other than that, it's pretty simple. We also need to have all of our own gear. So we have 4 tanks on board. Brooke dives with these aluminum 80 tanks, and then I dive with these steel HP 100 tanks. These hold a little bit more air, which helps me out, and then I like the steel tanks too because they're a little bit more negatively buoyant. So at the end of the dive, they don't want to float up to the surface, so I don't need to wear as much weight when I go diving. And then, of course, we have 2 full sets of dive gear, which includes a VCD, a regulator set with octopus pressure gauge, and we've got safety sausages, dive lights. We pretty much have
everything that you would need to be able to dive on your own. In addition to that, I just got done repairing Brooke's pressure gauge because as I was setting up the gear for tomorrow, I heard a little hissing sound, and I found that there was a little leak in this pressure gauge here at the hose connection. So we also have a whole collection of spare hoses, spare regulators, O-ring kits, basically a whole set of tools, a mini dive shop on board so that we can fix most problems ourselves, because here in Bora Bora there's plenty of dive shops and there's places we can take the gear to get it serviced and fixed, but a lot of times we're out on our own in a place with no dive shop around for hundreds of miles. So we've got to be able to fix small leaks and small issues ourselves. So getting out to dive sites, it's been rare that we've been able to dive right off of One Life itself. We were able to do that in Curacao at one point, but usually we need to take the dinghy out. So we load up the gear in the dinghy and we head out. And then dive sites vary a lot depending on where you are and what kind of dive it is. Our favorite is when there's a mooring that's clear and easily marked, and we can go to the mooring, dive off the dinghy, go down the mooring, do the dive, and then come back up the same mooring. That's the easiest when it's just the two of us. But sometimes there's current, sometimes there's swell, sometimes there's other things that we have to take into account. So each dive plan is a little bit different. Sometimes we need friends to drop us, like in Fakarava when we were doing the South Pass. We need friends to drop us off the dinghy, and then we can do the dive and have them pick us up further downstream. So with just the two of us, we're a little limited in what we can do diving-wise, but we tend to be a little conservative and make our own dive plans. We're going to go out tomorrow and try to do a dive site that's inside the lagoon here.
It's beautiful out, it's sunny, and we're gonna go diving again today. Woo woo! Too early for Gary, but I'm stoked. Wonder what we'll see today. With our gear all set and ready, we loaded up and set off to find the dive site. This particular site was given to us by a friend who had previously seen eagle rays here. We then used our compass to make a plan. We would begin the dive off the southern tip of the island, then swim diagonally across the lagoon toward the channel marker, turning back when our tanks reached half air capacity. After a bit of searching, we spotted the dive mooring, which was marked by an old plastic jug, floating just below the surface. With our dive plan set, we rolled off the dinghy and down the mooring line, following our compass heading. Gary spotted an eagle ray almost instantly, but we stuck to our plan and continued to head across the channel into the sandy area. Then slowly, out of nowhere, a whole school of eagle rays appeared. And in this moment, I felt like the luckiest girl in the world. We were so stoked to see these eagle rays. Then Gary and I had a quick underwater conversation, letting each other know how much air we had, and that it was time to continue on toward the channel marker. Eagle rays like to hang out in sandy patches because they commonly feed on fish and small crustaceans that bury themselves in the sand. We just sat here in the sand and watched as the rays gracefully glided around us. Once we were low on air, we followed the compass heading back to the dinghy, but we happened to see a couple cool critters along the way. Our anchor spot, or mooring spot, the over the water huts. Pretty good deal for $40 a night, I'd say. But we're getting ready to move to a different mooring spot, but we're actually gonna stop at the town dock to fill up on water. So when we were in the Tuamotus, we started having problems with our water maker. Gary tore it apart a few times, replaced some things on it, but it's still not quite right. So while we're here and while we're able to get water, we're gonna tie up to the public dock. It is 3,500 francs, which is about 35 US dollars. And that is for about 500 liters of water. So hopefully there's no one at the dock and we can go fill up because our time here in Bora Bora is quickly coming to a close. So we filled up our water tanks and gave One Life and her gear a good scrub before we headed to a mooring field that was closer to the customs office. With the boat secure, it was time to finish up our last few chores. We reviewed all our paperwork from customs to make sure we were all set for our next port of entry and headed off to finish up our final preparations. Well, so we're in town today, just running around doing some errands. We just picked up our paperwork at customs to clear out of French Polynesia, and then we had to take it to the post office here to mail it so it goes back to Tahiti, I guess.
So we just stopped to buy some fruit on the side of the road here because Brooke saw some avocados that she wanted. And I spotted these things. And we don't speak enough French to figure out what they are. They told us the name in French, but we don't know what it is. But it is white on the inside and absolutely delicious. It's kind of like a plum, but softer. Does anyone know what this is? Help us out.
On our way back to the boat, we made one final stop to top off our jerry cans, and then it was time to catch some rest before we set off on our next sail. Cheers, everyone! Thanks for watching. We will see you next time as we set sail somewhere new.